Uh-huh. It's always good when there's no identifiable threads in sight and you can't tell where the spark plug ends and the cylinder head starts. It's perfect. I mean, that should mean that these are going to come right out. Right. All right, guys. So we're at a point with this thing where, we have had the cylinders pickling in Marvel Mystery Oil and zero weight Mobile One and all kinds of things. We haven't gone the CLR route, but it's been pickling for months and months, and no success at all. Scoped the borers on it, and they looked quite bad. It was kind of hard to tell because, of the oil and stuff that was in there from pickling them, but the borers look bad. The spark plugs look bad. I think we're at a point now where it's time to pull the cylinder head off it and see what we can see. It's just, at this point, even regardless if we get it broken loose, it's the right thing to do because there's just, there's obviously too much corrosion in there. So, we're going to start by popping the fuel tank off, and we'll get after this thing and see what we can see. Alright guys, so we're into it. Got most of the oil out of it. Cleaned out what I could with brake cleaner. It's still drying up a bit, but I know this is probably going to perplex a lot of people, but you know what? These bores don't look that bad. So yeah, there's a heavy amount of corrosion, especially on the valve heads, which is pretty disappointing. I'm probably going to end up having to change out a couple of valves. But the bores, though they're rusted, they don't appear to be rusted badly. A lot of this is surface rust. I don't see any signs of heavy scaling. I don't see signs of pitting. There's even some areas, if you look close, where you can see some shiny cylinder wall. This bore is probably the worst. There's a decent amount of scale there, but it's all appears to be superficial. I think that these are going to clean up really well. So what we're going to do is probably go in here with a stripping wheel and gently clean the scale off of this, get the chunks off, and then we will probably hit the cylinders with a glazing hone quickly, just clean them up a little bit. The next objective is going to be to try to break this loose without breaking the rings. I still may pull the oil pan off of this and pull the pistons and rods right out of it. That way we can inspect the rings, clean any rust or corrosion out of the ring lands, get a good clean hone on the bores, inspect the babbits, because this is a babbited engine, and then, you know, we'll be confident before we spend the time putting it back together again. This is something I'm pretty proud to own. And Fordsons, I mean, even these track pulls, I mean, they're pretty simple. There's not a lot to go wrong with them. The transmissions are almost never bad. So it's worth the time in the front end to pull this completely down and make sure everything's on the up and up. So anywho, we'll get after it and see what we come up with. Well, we got most of the rust out of the top anyway, if I can get my light out of the way so you can see. A couple of them are pitted up a little bit worse than I was hoping for. I don't know, maybe I'm an eternal optimist, but I'm still optimistic. I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's a slow RPM engine, pittings towards the top. May take the micrometer adjustable hone and actually try to take a little bit of material out of these cylinders, clean the bores up a little bit more, and you know, make sure everything's on the up and up. If we take a couple thousandths out of it, it's really not going to be a big deal. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Anyhow, that's where we're at. I think we'll call it quits for today. It's dinner time. See you next day. Well, it's a new day, and ran out of brake cleaner the other night, so had to make a Walmart run. And I'm telling you, when you make a Walmart run, you got to make it count so you can avoid that place for as long as humanly possible until you got to go again. So we're all stocked up on carb cleaner and brake cleaner for now. Let's get after it. Alright guys, so as I was saying before, next thing we got to do is try to clean out that crud that's around the, hey, it's so quiet in here now. Clean out that crud that's around the tops of the pistons so that way the CLR can get down around the rings. So I had the compressor running, as I'm sure you heard. We'll get that scraped out and blow it out of there with a blowgun and get as clean as we can and get some CLR in there, and then we'll move on to getting the lifter cover off, because we're going to pull the valves out of this before we do anything. Alright guys, so we got these bores cleaned up pretty well. I don't know how well you can see in there without a light, but you can actually see down around the top of the piston dome now a bit on in a couple spots anyway. So that's good. I haven't decided yet now if I'm gonna go straight to CLR or whether I'm gonna maybe try soaking these again in something thin and oil based. It's always safer to go that route, then you don't have risk of compromising anything. But in the interim, we're going to get the lifter cover off here and see about getting the valves out of this, or at least inspect the bottoms of the lifters and the valves to see if there's risk in trying to turn this thing over, and go from there. And guys, so we got the lifter cover off. And everything looks really good in here. Nice and clean, a little bit of carbon, but for the most part, this looks really good. Got a couple of valves hung open, which is kind of amusing. So at some point when this turned over, the valve's stuck. I don't know, maybe that's when somebody gave up on it or something, and then it set and then the engine stuck. I don't know, but for the amount of water ingress that's in the cylinders, I don't see any signs of any in here. Looks pretty clean, so that's promising. So we got a couple of valves that are really stuck, and I know it's going to make some of you cringe, but we got to get them out, and can't get the springs out or the keepers out until we get the valves free. So the ones that are up, I'm just kind of grabbing a hold of them with a pair of channel locks and giving them a wiggle and freeing them up a bit. See, that one's coming down now, so it's happy. Well, a little bit of patience and percussive maintenance. We've got it. Alright guys, another new day. Next order of business is going to be getting the valves out of this thing so we can grind the valves and grind the seats. We want a prayer of this thing running. That's going to be the first order of business. And like I said previously, we got a couple of valves here that probably aren't salvageable, so we'll have to replace them. Alright guys, well, we got all the valves out, and it was a chore, let's put it that way. We're definitely going to need a couple of guides. Obviously the ingress point was the center 2 cylinder exhaust valves. No idea how it was getting in there because it's got a bottom exhaust on it, so I don't know if it was coming through the lever there. This is a dual fuel manifold, not sure, but yeah, it's unfortunate because we can't just put a valve job on it now. We're going to have to get a set of guides for it and try to press out what's left of these two at minimum. May consider putting guides in the rest of them, I don't know. We could pin these out, see what kind of condition they're in, but the valves look worn pretty good, so you know, we're this far into it. It may be just as far ahead to go ahead and put all new valves and all new guides in it, and then you know you're set. I'll show you this valve. This is the one that's got the top of the guide broken off, and this valve is just the pitting is tremendous. I don't think I've seen one quite that bad. Really unfortunate, but you know, one step forward, 3 steps back, as they say. I don't know if it's that bad, but we'll get ahead of it. You know, if it were easy, everybody'd do it, so we'll get there. We'll keep trudging along. Alright, so it's another new day, and next order of business is going to be getting this oil pan off. This is going to be an interesting task because the leaf spring support is tied in the front 2 bolts of the oil pan, and that's obviously load bearing here. And then the track frame support, get this out of the way, is also tied into the oil pan, and that is also load bearing. So first we're gonna have to figure out how to jack this thing up and get the weight off those parts and get them out, and then support the tractor so that I don't die while I'm crawling under it to take the oil pan bolts out. This is going to be quite the project, so I'm going to require some music. And you know, that's the frustrating thing about YouTube is can't have any music playing while I'm taking video, because if there's music playing in the background, they'll and it makes it to the video, they'll nail you for copyright. So what I'm probably going to do is just sit you guys up on the GoPro, and we'll do a time lapse of this whole fiasco, and if it falls on me, then that'll be captured for posterity. And that way I can play some music, and you guys can see what I'm doing. So let's get after it. Got a lot of work to do. Alright guys, so here's what we got going on. Bought a piece of 5/16 all thread, and I've dropped that through the valve guide. I've got the bottom double nutted, as you can see, with a couple of grade 8 nuts. And I have a block off my arbor press here, and I did that primarily just so that I can see down through there. So I got a little vantage point. Got a body mount washer, which is really thick, and another thick washer. I'm doing 2 of them just to kind of help distribute the load. I don't know how big of a difference it's going to make, but it made sense in my head at the time. And I got 2 grade 8 washers that I put smooth side together. I'm going to put some assembly lube between these 2. Oops, there we go. I'm going to slide those over the top like this. And then I got a, this nut is actually to join 2 pieces of rod together, but I'm going to use it as the nut to draw with. That way I've got the thread load distributed over a larger area. More threads, more distributed load, less friction. Therefore, same thing with the idea with these 2 washers. Hopefully they will be able to spin against each other. We want to reduce the friction as much as possible to get as much as the force from turning this nut onto drawing the valve guide out as we possibly can. So I'm going to put the phone down and turn my radio back on and get some lube on here and see if this works. Stay tuned. Well, guys, it never fails. We got it all the way to the last cylinder, and we got one that's just stuck. And of course the tool broke right smack in the middle, so both pieces are too short now to reach. So I'm gonna have to go get myself another piece of all thread and then kind of reassess this situation here. Not sure what I'm gonna do just yet. I may try getting a piece that's this length as well as a real long piece and possibly devise some sort of a homebrew slide hammer to shock it a little bit. I don't know, not sure. I'll chew on it for a bit. But I think that's it for tonight, so gotta go to the store. I'll see you when we get back again.